Welcome back to Trailmakers with Fenrir. Today we're going to be doing something interesting and making one of my existing BattleBots fully autonomous. This here is Forks, a lightweight BattleBot with double punchers, and we're going to give it sensors and logic so that it can navigate the arena, find and track down its opponents, and attack them. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, our BattleBot needs to be able to see where it's going. So we'll grab some distance sensors. And our first pair here, we'll make some adjustments to. We're going to bring the sensor offset all the way up to 80. Then rotate one of them so that the little red dot that shows where the sensor is actually looking from are as close together as possible, because we want these to act like one sensor. And on one of them, we're going to detect only blocks and invert trigger. So together, these are going to work like a wall sensor, but not a block sensor. It'll only, when we hook both of these up to an AND gate, which we can do right now because we'll need to. Well, we won't hook it up yet because then we'll end up with a bunch of cross-wiring. But once we hook it up to this AND gate, the AND gate will only trigger when it detects a wall, but makes sure that there's not a block there too. Because that'll be handled by our aggression system for one, and for two, these are going to be looking slightly upwards, and it'll probably not see any BattleBots anyways. But it'll keep it from misunderstanding the world around it. And we'll copy this over. And we'll need one more that we can put above and slightly behind it. And now we can worry about mounting them. We'll need them to look slightly upwards. All three sets of these. And these ones in the front are also going to have to look sideways. And we'll just grab some L brackets for down here. A 2x4 for there. And these ones still need an AND gate. So I'll use the AND gate as its mounting piece. Then we'll need something to trigger all these hinges, and I'm in the wrong tab, because we need a NOR gate. Then we can go ahead and put that right here in the back. And attach it to our hinges. Then we'll select all the hinges. We'll start with their angle at 10, because most of them will be. Clear their inputs, just for testing purposes. Once it's autonomous, it won't really matter too much. And we'll bring the strength down, or the strength up and the steering help down just because. And we'll turn hold position on to make it a little bit more robust, in case it takes some damage. That way the sensors won't suddenly pop back to facing forward. And finally, we'll select the sideways hinges for our two sets of side sensors and bring their angle up to 45 so that they look off to the sides. And let's check how those sensors are aimed. And that's looking about right. We've got a sensor looking off to the right at a 45 degree, to the left at a 45 degree, and straight forward. And all of them are angled 10 degrees up, so that they're less likely to be distracted by a battle bot, and more likely to simply see the wall, but not pointed so high that they'll look over the wall. Basically, what I'm saying is these are tuned specifically for this arena. It's not general terrain avoidance or anything like that. But next, we'll worry about what it needs to see to find its enemy. So we'll put some distance sensors right at the base of the weapon facing forward, without any hinges, and these will be the ones that'll trigger our weapon going off. Next, what I'm going to do is remove these panels to expose something to mount on. Then I'm going to set up some distance sensors so that they'll be able to be fanned out facing forward. And I'll go ahead and grab one of these that are set to 10. I'll need a 1x2 block there. A 2x2 block for here. Let's see, this will be 10 degrees, this will be 20, this will be 30. Let's have one more. Grab a 1x3. No, let's use a 1x2 here. Just to reduce the chances of contact with these pistons here. And then we'll adjust our angles before we copy these over. So the second one is going to be 20. The first one can stay 10. The third one is going to be 30. Pretty obvious, we're just going by tens. And I overshot that for some reason because I'm an idiot. But the fourth one, we're going to jump all the way up to 45, just to make it so that it'll look at an even 90 degrees. It'll be a little bit bigger of a gap, but shouldn't be too much of a problem because it'll jerk the steering kind of suddenly and jump it to the next one pretty easily. But next we'll select this little section here and copy it over. And it typically mirrors the hinges wrong, so we gotta flip them around. And just doing a check here that everything fans out correctly without any issues or collisions. The weapons fire without any collisions. And it seems that none of our steering hinges have gotten any of their controls back, so we're all good for the rest of our programming. At this point I'm going to color code things real quick before we get too confusing, so hold please. So this will keep it a little bit easier to keep track of. We have blue for the navigation system, red for the attacking system, and the light pink is for core systems. And speaking of core systems, we need something to congregate all of our controls on for our steering and our drive. So this one here will be the main hub for our steering, So we'll attach that to any gyros and other steering mechanisms we have here, which looks to just be the one. Yeah, it doesn't have tank steering, it just has the one gyro. Then 2 Dragon engines. I suppose this is kind of unnecessary, but it'll help me organize it easier than having to directly hook up to the engines every time. Then we'll do a light green for our engine input, and a bluish green for our steering input. Now those aren't really too dissimilar. Let's do the dark blue-green. There we go. So all of our steering inputs will go through the OR gate, and all of our drive inputs will go through this OR gate. And speaking of OR gates, next we'll grab some more for our aggression system. We'll need one to trigger if it sees any of these go off. So we'll go ahead and paint these red. Then select these 4 distance sensors on the far right. Connect them there. These 4 on the far left. Connect them to the OR gate on the left. Then we'll adjust the strength of these a little bit, because if it's farther off at an angle to the side, we want it to turn sharper, but if it's closer up, we don't want it to oversteer. So we'll select the second ones from the inside, give them a scale of 80, then the next pair inside, a scale of 60, then the closest ones, a scale of 40. And if it sees an opponent on its left side, we want it to turn to the left. So we'll make the output of the OR gate negative and attach it to our steering OR gate. Then the one from the right side, we want it to turn right, so its output stays 1, and we hook it up to our teal our teal OR gate here for our steering. And that should be ready for a basic test. So let's get something to see out on the battlefield. I'm just going to pick a human-driven toaster so it won't run away on us. And it's just a nice big solid target that our sensors shouldn't be able to miss. Though I did just remember one thing, we haven't adjusted the actual distances on any of these yet, have we? So let's go ahead and select the outer 4 aggression distance sensors. And we'll set them to, well, let's just set them to 42. It's a decent enough number. And then we can go ahead and finish. Actually, no, let's just test the turning first. So why is that seeing everything? Oh, I know why. Because I didn't set these to detect only blocks either. So all of our red sensors can be set to detect only blocks. There we go. Now, it's automatically... Oh, I didn't mean to actually ram it. But it's automatically steering me into the opponent. And it's actually kind of hard not to steer into it because as soon as it locks on a little bit, it starts overriding my controls. But you can see where we're going with this. So next we'll finish off the aggression system since we have a target out. The other thing we need to do when one of these side sensors goes off is to be driving forward. So we'll grab an OR gate to this side, because as I recall, yep, it's currently sending out a negative signal. So we're just going to invert the signal by running it through an OR gate that's set to negative before running it into our main drive. Then on the other side, we already have a positive signal, so we can run that directly in. And now, when those side sensors see something, it doesn't just steer towards it, it'll drive towards it as well. And there's currently no, because I'm making this a little bit more simply, because I know that I'm going to remove the seat as soon as I'm done with the logic, I'm not installing any interrupts to the signal, so I can't turn off the aggression or the steering or anything like that manually. There's not going to be any manual control during this testing. But next, we'll set up the weapon firing logic. So we'll set an OR gate next to each of these inner distance sensors. Hook up the left side to the left side and the right side to the right side. Then we can select both of the OR gates we just put down. Give it a duration of 0.25 and a pause of 0.25. And we'll make their output negative. And attach the right side, or, well, I'm looking at the left side, aren't I? The left side to the left side pistons, or whatever other weapon you've got on your BattleBot, and the right side to the right side weapon. And now, when it sees the toaster, oh, if it doesn't miss, it should. I didn't change the distance on these, did I? I did not. So let's give these a range of 5 meters. I think that might be about right for the length of these arms. Oh! And I'm not sure if that was because I spawned on it, or because it actually saw it was... Nope. I can see that little piece of debris. Which means the system is working. And I am going to slide these little pieces over before I color them. Because I realized I should put one more set of distance sensors in here. Sliding them right up next to the ones that fire our weapons, and looking past our tires. I'm going to set these to 42 as well, and hook them up like the side ones. Because I'm realizing that I wasn't driving forward when I was looking straight at them anymore. So, we'll hook this up to the side, same as these are hooked up to. And have them detect only blocks, of course. Now that they're hooked up, I'll paint them. Because I tend to only paint them once I have them hooked up, or once I know what they're going to be used for. So it's spawning another target. Oh! And it's immediately getting to work. Okay then. So let's see if it'll chase us around. Yep. It doesn't have the strongest lock-on ability due to the gaps in its sensors and it's only got a 90-degree spread on the sensors with at least 10 degrees between each, so once it's a far enough range out, there's too large of a gap between the sensor beams for it to stay locked on too well. That can be solved with more sensors, of course, but I'm trying to keep this simple, more for demonstration than making it super effective. So now that we can find and track down our opponent, we can move on to avoiding the walls. And I realized I actually made too many of these. I only need the middle one if I'm doing a double-sided battle bot that needs to flip sides. So we can get rid of this completely. And we'll need some AND gates. 4 of them to be precise. For the 4 different combinations of these. And in order to do that, we'll need some NOR gates on these as well. Which I'm actually gonna... Yeah, I'll put them right on top of here. We can rearrange all the logic once it's wired in and make it more efficient afterwards. We'll take this AND gate, which isn't actually hooked up to the sensors yet. We'll hook the sensors up to it, and hook it up to the NOR gate. Then do the same thing on the right side. Sensors to the AND gate to the NOR gate. Then give them a little paint job. And what we've got going on here are 4 different conditions that we can get out of our 2 sets of sensors. On the far left here will be if our left sensor is on and our right sensor is off. So the NOR gate from the right and the AND gate from the left. And on the far right side, we're going to do the opposite. We'll take the right AND gate and hook it in, and the left NOR gate and hook it in. And in the middle, one of them will be both AND gates, and the other one will be both NOR gates. Now, if it sees a wall to its left, but not to its right, we want it to turn to the right. So output of 1 into the searing. If it sees something, or if it sees a wall on its right, but not its left, we want it to turn to the left, so an output of -1 into the steering. If it sees a wall on both sides, we want it to back up, so an output of -1 into the drive. And if it doesn't see anything on either, we want it to drive forward, so output of 1 into the drive. And now, when we let it loose, it should start navigating the arena with just basic routine, which it failed to do, and I have a feeling I know why. Yep. It's not going to be able to avoid much if the distance sensor is still set to 1. I really should have done that at the beginning of the video when I put them in, but oh well. We'll set these to 40, just for a starting point, and see where that gets us. So it's probably, yep, it's going to see the debris and attack it first. And it's a pair because I think it broke the sensors a bit. And actually, yeah, it's going to keep seeing that debris and throwing it off. I want to just see what happens. By the way, it just drove into the arena of its own accord, so it didn't see that little lump in the ground because the sensors for the walls are angled upwards. But it looks to be, well, I say that, but then immediately hits the wall. It looks to be properly avoiding the walls. Well, I might want to turn up the sensors just a little bit so that it keeps farther away and doesn't get itself stuck in a ledge like it's attempting to do right now. Considering how much wider those sensors are than its wheelbase, it's got a decent chance of getting hung up. But if we just let it go for a little while, make sure it doesn't get stuck in any corners or anything like that. But it seems to be doing a pretty good job of navigating so far. And I should probably get out and prove that I'm not the one driving it, but I feel like if you know anything about sensors and logic, it's not that hard to understand that something can drive itself in this game. And we'll keep things interesting by hopping in a toaster and giving it something to track down and chase. And it just scored a goal. That's kind of funny. Oh, I got a little close there and got myself hit. And that time I just couldn't turn in time. So if I pass in front of it, yep, it tries to lock on, but I can usually get away if I'm going 90 degrees parallel to it, or perpendicular. I always confuse those two ones. But the important thing is, it's not getting stuck in the walls. So I suppose we can adjust its combat routine. Well, not routine, but its sensor setup. I wouldn't really call it a routine if it only has one set of actions. It's just a set of lists, and I remembered I can't turn it off, so I gotta spin in a circle to get slow enough for build mode. So let's see. So I'm going to make some quick adjustments to this. And I'm just going to reduce the angles at which our aggression sensors are seeing. So I'm going to drop the first one down to 5. The second one will be 10. The third, 15. And the last one, 20. So this isn't going to be able to see as wide of an arc, but it should lock on more effectively by having less of a gap between the sensors. So we'll just wait for it to head on over. And it should. Yep, okay, it picked up on that really well. Let's try to grab this before it finishes. Never mind. Let's release release that going that way and give us a moment. Grab our target vehicle again. And now, let's see if it'll get locked onto us easier. Which it might actually not. It doesn't seem to be locking on as well, and I'm not sure why that is. It should lock on a little bit easier, I thought, but I guess I was wrong. And because I haven't saved it yet, I realized I have to catch the thing in order to work on it again. Well, I suppose I could pull it out of the build history, but it wasn't too hard to catch it. So let's change those angles back real quick. Didn't seem to work out. And instead what I'm going to do is adjust the power our distance sensors give off. So I'm going to bump that one all the way up to 1. I'll bump the 60 up to 80. And the 40 up to 60. And that can remain 1, I do believe, because that's just going to be sensing for the charge. And let's see what it does. Yep, it's going to see the toaster, of course. Let's actually give it a run around. Oh, I think I know what might be happening with it. I didn't set up the interrupt for the aggression system overriding the regular navigation. So it might still be too afraid of walls to properly track its target because the two signals might be overriding each other. So in order to keep that from happening, we'll need some NOR gates. Actually, we only need the one NOR gate. We'll put it right behind the main power. And color it red, make sure we know it's part of the aggression system. Then if it receives an input from either of these side OR gates that are linked up to all of our searching sensors, it'll turn off, and we'll hook that up to each of our decisions on the navigation system. So now, it'll only, if it sees a wall on the left, it'll only turn away from it if it's not also seeing a target. And if it's seeing a target, it won't bother at all with where the walls are, and it will only pay attention to the target vehicle. It's luckily found some debris to hurt itself on. Let's hop back in it and repair it. And actually, let's do a save real quick. It's important to save frequently, and I haven't been doing that. Alright, it got itself unstuck from the goal when it went in. That's good. But it didn't turn very sharply at all there. That seemed to be the issue. Okay, that time it turned sharper. But... Okay, so I didn't make any tweaks to it. But I just want to see some more of how it performs. And I've killed my toast on the debris. And it... Oh, it ended up upside down, it looks like. I was missing some sensors. So that time it drove right past it. I saw some of the aggression sensors trip, but I don't think they stayed on long enough for it to actually turn this vehicle all the way. The turning on this is not the most responsive, given that it only has one gyro and no tank steering. And I suppose getting it tank steering could be a fast way to increase that steering. So let's... Yeah, it has two engines. Let's do that real quick. And just for testing purposes, I'll set up the controls too. But that'll also help me remember which one is which. Because in order to apply steering to it, I'll need an OR gate to translate for me a little bit. Because it'll need an opposite signal going into this engine. And the steering, if the steering can get hooked up directly to this engine. So now, without changing any of the programming, it should be a lot better at actually tracking down its target, although it might be a little bit twitchier in avoiding the walls, and we can deal with that. Oh yeah, that was... Okay, now it's doing a good job of tracking me. It just didn't have enough turning capacity to really turn and sense me quick enough. Now, by the time it's done with the motion of turning, the next sensor is already seeing me, so it continues to turn and stays locked on. And I think it's about time to put out an automatic target, which this one here, if it'll let go of me, is set up to avoid everything, walls and opponents, whereas Forks is locked in on it, even though it's damaged, which I'd like to repair it here. And it did lose track of the target because Ironsides over there is very zippy. Oh, it's gonna notice it this time. Okay, yeah, it's locking back on. Getting into attack range. Oh, it saw the debris and went for that instead. Almost got stuck, but it didn't. Boom! Finish off the target. Come on. These things are so troublesome to work with. It's even harder if I've already taken out the seat and still needed to adjust things on them, because then they really like to run away. Let's save a copy of this, because I think it's pretty much done. So all that's left to do is delete the seat and pack away the logic, I think. And I'm going to do one last check before I wrap up the video. Make sure I didn't forget anything important. But it seems fully functional, so I think we're all good. Yeah, we're all good. So we can go ahead and delete the seat and start moving logic into its place, because obviously the connections are all kind of important for it. Drop that down there. Put that in there. Move these over. Move this over. Put that in the middle. That looks a little bit neater. And we could clean up all these other bits that I used just for attaching the sensors and make them prettier, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to go ahead, give this a save in its final form. Oh, even that little bit of debris was able to see and lock onto. But to close out the video, I'm just going to add a couple of these into the ring with each other and see what happens. Oh, alright, that didn't take long. So they're obviously not going to be able to chase each other down being the same speed. But we already saw one attack. And oh, that one left the arena. Ooh. Yeah, as soon as both of them see each other and they turn to face each other, all aggression instantly. So yeah, that's how to build a fully autonomous BattleBot. At least a simple one like this that only has to worry about its forward end. Making a double-sider is a little bit more difficult, but not by too much. But that can be a separate video. Anyways, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section. And if you want to support the channel or make me happy, leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye now.
PlayStation